smiling, but anyway, we'll go.
All right, here we are. This is Aaron Wissner from Local Future. We are broadcasting live. It is about 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on June the 6th, 2020. It's a Saturday here in the United States.
And it's my birthday.
And it's your birthday. We're here with Dr. Vincent Lyn. He is the Chief Executive Officer and founder at We Can Save Children. And he's Director of Creative Development at African Views Organization. He is also Economic and Social Counsel at United Nations, Rescue and Recovery Specialist at International Confederation of Police and Security Experts. Today, our topic is death versus money, starvation of preschoolers in orphanages. And so with that not light title at all, I'd like to welcome you to the show, Vincent. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
So the format here is we're just going to have a conversation as conversationally as we possibly can, knowing that this is going to be viewed by someone watching on their phone or their computer, either soon or some point in the future. We're going to leave this uncut, side-by-side conversation so people can see what's going on. And have you and I ever talked before this?
Never. Only a few texts back and forth on Facebook, but we've never met, never talked, no.
Exactly. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, then I am going to just make sure that the broadcast link is on my Facebook so people on my Facebook can watch at the same time. So if you might want to go ahead and just introduce yourself a bit more.
Hi, everybody. My name's Dr. Vincent Lyn, and I'm here talking about all the work I do, not only, I guess, in the Middle East, but specifically in Central Africa.
Excellent. And so I'm just posting this to my Facebook page so people can see it and they can watch if they wish. And of course we have people that might be watching on YouTube, and I'm just going to make sure I have that on the lowest quality setting so that it doesn't hamper
I should
my
have put it up. I should have put it up on my Facebook too.
Sure. Well, I can share this with you right now because you're one of my friends. So I will share now to friends.
Okay, and then
let me see where I can share it. Let's see. I will just, can I put your name in the comments, and then it will come up on yours.
Yeah, because I don't know if we are we Facebook friends? I don't think we are yet.
Perhaps not.
Yeah.
Well, you can go to my page and it's the first post at the top and you can repost it.
Okay, let's see. Aaron. Oh, I'm sending you a friend request anyway. Boom,
okay.
There it is. Send you the request.
And you're in.
There it is. You accepted. Okay. And yeah. If you just add me, you can send it to my page or whichever.
Yeah, I think I can add you in the. I will add you in edit post, and I will add you as a. There you go, with Vincent Lyn, and save, and I'm going to make this public. I'm not going to keep it public on my page forever, but I'm going to make it public just for now in case anybody is watching.
Sure. Okay.
Of course, it's public on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have one person watching on the stream, which is fine. You know, since this is kind of an impromptu thing, we had talked about doing this on Monday, but then you mentioned that maybe today was a better day. Was there a particular reason for that, Vincent, or were you just like ready to?
Just ready to go. Yeah, I did one earlier today. It was an international conference. As I'm also a journalist, but it was an international conference for journalists and how journalists have been affected during, COVID-19 throughout the world. So that was an interesting one. It was headed up by His Excellency, the Deputy Prime Minister of Nepal. So there are a lot of academics and lawyers and journalists on that one. So I figured, as I'm in the role, why don't we get it done?
Well, that's great. I mean, the sooner the better, in my opinion. Once you have an idea for someone to talk to them right then. And
figured, yeah.
So I came across you. We have one mutual friend on Facebook, and I went on his page, and he had posted a video you made about a month ago with a woman from New York City who appears to be of African descent. It's based on her accent. And at that time, you were talking about how there was, due to the COVID, there was a lockdown in various countries as far as the borders were closed, even to food aid. And then the orphanages were also locked down, as in the children were not even allowed to go outside to the garden, which was down the street.
Yeah, that was with Regina Askia Williams. She's in New York City also. Yeah, she's on the board of doctors at Columbia University Hospital. So yeah, I remember now.
I really appreciated that call. That was, I didn't even get through the whole thing, but I was halfway through and I was like, oh my gosh, this is an important person to talk to. So, I have a lot of things on my plate sometimes. So listening to an hour call, even at double speed is a task. But
the person that we both know, and is because is he from Uganda?
Yes.
From Uganda? Okay. Yeah.
Is that let's see, is it Crispine, or is that Buyunza?
Yeah, Buyunza Morgan.
There you go. Yep. I've been chatting with him.
Yes. Very, very nice young man. Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna try to help him out a little bit financially.
That's very nice.
With a small amount.
I have been, yeah, for sure. Well, obviously, I met Morgan, could be four years ago, maybe 5 now. One of my first trips to Uganda, and I kind of took it upon myself, because the 3 gentlemen who have been running these 3 orphanages in different parts of Uganda, around 1,200 children. They'd been reaching out to me because of seeing the work I was doing and telling me, what they were doing. And I just kind of took it upon myself, after a year of kind of going back and forth, because, there are so many of these situations throughout Africa and the rest of the world that sometimes you're not sure, okay, is this person telling the truth? Does this place really exist? Is it really like they say? So I took it upon myself. It's the type of person I am. And I flew to Kampala and I met with them, and they took me around. I spent a couple of weeks there, and they showed me around the orphanages and the kind of dire situation that they're having to go through. And that's where I met Morgan. He was, I think, like 15 maybe, at the high school, of which there were 200 students, or 200 orphans, I should say, at the high school level. And it's interesting because, a number of NGOs that I do work with the United Nations, and of course I was wearing a United Nations hat, and I was introduced, being connected with the UN. And of course, it was interesting because one of the questions he asked me was, I hate the UN and I hate all that it stands for. And I was interested by that question because it was they're mostly Seventh-day Adventists. So I attended this.
As in vegetarian?
Yes. And so he gave the sermon. Yeah, exactly.
I'm vegan, so I'm all with that.
Okay. So he gave the sermon, and it was beautiful, and we sang, and it was really wonderful, And I was so kind of struck by that question. And because he put
which,
it
which
like,
question again, Vincent?
the question was, you know, what's the point of the UN? They don't do anything to help. And at that time, one of the largest, if not the largest, United Nations base in the entire continent of Africa is based in Kampala. And he said, you know, they do nothing for us. And so, I spoke to him for quite some time about that, saying, you know, you got to understand, I mean, it's complicated. And I said, so you're meaning to tell me if we got rid of all the NGOs, all the community-based organizations, the UN, UNICEF, all these, USAID, like it would make things better? I said, I'm here in Uganda. I'm here because I care about you. This is why I came here. I didn't have to come here. So, but so bright and so tenacious and a survivor, and what he's having to go through right now. I sent him some funds. So because we're going to get to the lockdown within the lockdown that kind of is still going on in Uganda after 2 months, he basically had to leave his village. And with two other young boys, well, I say young compared to myself, like 18, yes. They went to another part of Uganda, a number of hours away, and basically trying to afford to buy, some seed and beans and stuff, and actually grow their own crop. And so, yeah, I had sent him some money so that he could actually buy at least the initial seed, and he needed to buy some cow manure and so forth to grow the crop. So yeah, it's a tough, but situation, but he's certainly a survivor, as there are many. Yeah.
So can I show you the map, just because
of course
the viewers might not be familiar, and so I'm going to bring this up and you can look at it. And I wouldn't normally do this because this is like for a podcast as well. I like people to be able to listen to this without watching, but I think we can kind of describe what we're seeing as well. So what I'm pulling up here is Google Maps, My Maps. And on Google Maps, My Maps, I'm showing the whole Earth with just national boundaries only. And I'm showing Africa, the people that I'm connected with in Africa. And I know a person in Ghana and a person in Burkina Faso. And then I know a couple people in the Kenya, Uganda area. And they only connected with me on account of, they read something I'd written that ended up being on some comment on the BBC. I'd written about George's death. I'd written about, and I also wrote about just racism in the USA. So I'm not sure which one they read, but somehow they connected to me through that. Anyway. So you're talking about, let's see, where are we at? No. Not Christophine. Morgan. So in Kampala. So here's Kampala. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Kampala is the capital of Uganda, Kenya, is it?
Uganda, yeah.
Uganda, okay.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting when I look at the map, because you can see that the jungle's been denuded except for these very small areas, these small probably reserves or preserves or something. Yeah. And it looks like Mount Elgon, a volcano or something, and Lake Victoria is just here.
Sure.
And,
yeah.
And on the border, Lake Albert is on the border, as well as Mount Stanley. So, and then these orphanages that you mentioned on an earlier text, there was one you said was in
Chiboga, which is the furthest one over to the west.
Okay.
Kiboga,
Yep. So that's this one just here.
Yeah, there's one in Namayumba.
Okay.
And also one in Nansana, which is not too far from the capital. Obviously the road conditions are bad, so what would take probably 20 minutes here is a 2-hour drive there.
Okay, so this is not like freeway driving.
No, not really. Some of it is, but it's certainly not what we think as freeway driving.
What is the typical like, you might have to, even though it's a clear road, you might have to go down to 10 miles an hour just because of the terrain?
Yeah, because what happens is, because of the flooding that they have, these torrential rains, and of course the roads are not built very well at all. The asphalt is so kind of thin that, a torrential rain will start tearing it apart. And of course, the earth, that red earth, just kind of washes parts of the road away. So you could ordinarily drive quite nicely, maybe 40 miles an hour on it, but because there are so many potholes, I mean, I'm talking about craters, that it's impossible. So for a little while, you'll have to, maybe half a mile, then a series of potholes will be all over the road. So, you have to slow down and kind of maneuver yourself through these kind of a minefield of potholes. Yeah. And of course, the further, those were the three. And of course, there's another one in Fort Portal, which is all the way on the border of Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. So that's all the way to the west. And that's a very small orphanage of about 50, but it's a separate organization, nothing to do with those three. Yeah. And of course they had not only with the COVID and everything else, but they had a serious flood very recently, in the past few weeks. So it actually, I think 100,000 people had to leave their homes. So yeah, they were made homeless in a matter of one day.
Is it okay if I bring the map up again?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So what I'm noticing from the map is that if you look at the border between Congo and Uganda, that there's the Rift Valley, right? And then the lakes in the Rift Valley. So this is where two continental plates are pushing or pulling apart, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see the Congo looks very much like the Amazon. I mean, it's mostly forested, but you can see that there's a lot of logging going on right now. There's roads that are going in, and it looks like it's being kind of disintegrated from the inside out. But there's a lot of wildlife reserves and whatnot. But on the Uganda side, it's basically been, all the forests have been cut down and gone. So
yeah, further to the north of Uganda, on the border of South Sudan, which I've spent some time, it's called Adjumani, Adgumani. It's an area where they have numerous refugee camps, and we're talking.
How do you spell that? I want to zoom in on it.
Yeah, Adjumani, Adjumani. Yeah.
That's a city.
Yeah, but there are numerous refugee camps in that region or that district. Yeah. And we're talking about homes to, a few million South Sudanese. Yeah.
Why did the people flee Sudan?
I was in Sudan in December of 2016.
How long I'm sorry, Vincent, how long has South Sudan been a separate country? I don't know that I was.
It's the newest country. It happened during President Obama's presidency. It's the newest country, 2011. But after 9 years, they've been going through 9 years of civil war. So really, just up until, very recently, has there been some kind of respite of peace. But there hasn't been one day of peace since that country became a new country. Before it separated from Sudan. And you have basically two warring tribes, there, the Dinka and the Nuer. Yeah.
Are
So
these tribal based on language incompatibilities? Are the languages mutually
it,
intelligible?
well, it's really, yes, it is. It's tribal, but it's also a separation of Muslim and Christian,
Okay.
because
So,
mostly in Sudan, which, if I want to say northern Sudan, is Muslim. So yeah, you have a Christian population, in the south. So because of this civil war that has, effects of genocide and ethnic cleansing, they all been trying to escape to in northern Uganda. So that's where these refugee camps are. And I can tell you, I've been to these camps, and it's unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen the camps in Iraq and in Jordan, but these are, they're cutting down all the wood and forest to kind of be able to live and cook their own food. So this is why you're seeing in that area, it looks like a desert. It looks disintegrated. Yeah, that's how they're living. They're having to cut the forest down in order to live, in order to cook their own food, because they're not getting any help at this point. Yeah.
I'm curious, do you know anything about the border? I mean, how was the border established? Did the Muslim and the Christians like come to a bargaining table and draw it on a map, or where did this border come from? Or is this just like a UN construct?
The border, you will be able to see it if you go to the Nimule, that's N for Nancy, I for India, M for mother, ULE, Nimule. Actually, the Juba Highway. Obviously, Juba is the capital of South Sudan, but they have the highway that goes all the way straight from northern Uganda all the way up to the capital of South Sudan. So Nimule is the first township when you drive across the border. But the border it's like any other border. It would be like going from the United States to Canada. You have a border, you have to have a visa to go in to South Sudan. You can't just drive across willy-nilly. You stop, they check your visa and your passport and so forth. Yeah.
And so that's the border between South Sudan and Uganda.
Yeah.
I was wondering about the border between South Sudan and Sudan. I mean, how did that get drawn?
That's a good question. Obviously, pretty much this.
Because it seems it looks mathematical, like somebody did some math and they said, well, go 100 miles in this direction and then turn to the right and go 50 miles in this direction, and then there's even this chunk here which it's got dotted line around Dokura, the city of Dokura, or village of Dokura, and it's unclear which country it's in, really.
Yeah, I've been obviously I was in South Sudan. I was in Sudan, actually Khartoum, but only as a young boy. So I haven't been there in a long time. So I'm not sure. You never know how they come up with these borders. I think they just kind of make it up as they as they see. Sadly, that happened a lot during the British colonial times. So yeah.
I'm wondering if these countries, I mean, what is the difference between, like, along the line between South Sudan and Uganda?
Yeah.
What's the difference between the people? Like, if you went over to like Opari, which is just into South Sudan, versus Adjumani, I mean, are the people all that different? Or are they like?
No, they are. They're very well. When you say different, obviously different, completely different language. But even how they look is extremely different. South Sudanese, or Sudanese in general, are much darker skinned. They're much leaner. They're much taller. They look very, very different. Yeah, facial features are very different as well than Ugandans. Yeah, and it's even for a Westerner, it would be strikingly different. You notice the difference right away. And then actually the orphanage in Chiboga, where there are around 500 children from ages of around 3 to early teens. A lot of those children are from both Rwanda and South Sudan. Yeah.
How did they get from Rwanda all the way to Kiboga?
Well, if you look at the map, you'll see that it's actually another generation. Those orphans are another generation from the genocide of 1994.
Okay, just a moment. Let me throw the map up one more time, just so you can see it as well as I can see it.
Surely.
And then if there are viewers online, they can see it as well. I know the people listening to the podcast will not, so we'll just make sure to be descriptive. So it looks to me like along the Rift Valley to the east, you have in the north, you have the South Sudan, which is along the White Nile River. And then you have Uganda, which again is on the east. And then as you go south further, then Rwanda is a much smaller country. And then south of that is Burundi.
Yeah.
And then south of that is Tanzania, which is much, much larger. It almost looks like Rwanda and Burundi could have at one time been part of Tanzania.
Sure. Well, obviously you can see that. Yeah. So you can see kind of how that from a second generation from the Rwandan genocide, we're having another, the effects of child orphans. And that's many of them, as I said, in Chiboga are Rwandese. So, yeah. Then you have to the south, as you say, Burundi, and they've also been going through a civil war too. And it is still going on. So, yeah.
And again, I noticed that their trees are all gone. It's been basically denuded.
Yeah. And part because of war, part because of the refugee situation, and partly because of famine and a lot of other things that they're having to, cut down the forests and things in order to live, in order to, cook the food. Yeah, it's really a terrible situation.
Now, can you just, I was kind of paying attention at the time, but some of the viewers may be in their 20s or teens even, and they might not know about Rwanda. Are you okay to just review that for like a teenage audience? What happened?
Well, as we know, again, the genocide from 1994 was again tribal, like what has been happening in South Sudan between the Tutsi and the Hutu. And of course, over a period of, let's say, 100 days, I think their numbers, they estimated close to 1 million people were barbarically killed and exterminated.
Which people were the ones exterminated? The ones living in Rwanda, or was it a civil war within Rwanda?
No, it was a civil war within the country. Yes. Yeah.
What was
basically, it's the same thing in Sudan, right? Even though the country is split, and it's kind of strange. I look at it like it was not President Obama's best decision, because he was really behind that decision. As much as I did vote for him, but in it was just a terrible thing. I thought, okay, is this going to be good now? Splitting the country up because of all the problems that are going in.
We're talking about Sudan again.
Yeah, but in fact, it was the worst decision ever made, because the civil war has lasted a decade. Yeah.
Still ongoing in Sudan.
Still ongoing. Yeah. The wonderful thing that
ongoing, as in people with guns.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Where's the front?
Well, you have the leader of South Sudan, the kind of deposed vice president kind of went against the president. And so it was these two factions. And the, I guess, warring parties from both sides, you know, started attacking each other. I was actually nearly killed in South Sudan. Yeah.
Would you like to share that story?
Well, I'll just say without, I mean, we could talk about that for now, but I'll basically say it's not something that I ever want to go through again. Luckily, I was wearing Kevlar, which normally I would in these types of situations. And the actual bullet ricocheted off of my helmet. Yeah, the AK-47 round ricocheted off the helmet, knocked me flat on my back. Yeah. And this was, you know, talking about groups, child soldiers, and this is people that I have, children that I have rescued in different parts of Africa, but certainly not that day. Young children, 13, 14, you know, fully armed and, yeah, senseless violence, you know, ethnic cleansing.
My older son is 12. He'll be 13 this summer. So you're talking about children that age.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I also have a 10-year-old.
And you see it in the eyes. It's like complete lack of emotion. And of course, many of them are forced to, you know, take drugs and, you know, sniffing glue and all this type of stuff. But you see it in the eyes. It's completely, it's like shark's eyes. Yeah, it's like, it's death. No other way to explain it. Yeah.
So are these children who, I'm just asking because I don't know, are these children who grew up without any family at all, like without a mother, a nurturing mother to love them? And
no, not necessarily. A lot of them have been kidnapped. A lot of them do have families. A lot of them have been just taken. It's what happened.
Taken from South Sudan, from villages, or from where?
Yeah, from wherever they can take them from.
Who is taking them? Which, because you said this is kind of Muslim and Christian. So which, is it both? Or?
Well, this is, okay. This has been happening throughout Africa for a long time. We can look at it in Nigeria with Boko Haram. We can look at it in Uganda. We're talking how long ago? 15 years ago, the Lord Resistance Army, the LRA, they stole 60,000 children for his army.
So they went to the houses with guns and they pulled the children out by force with the mother screaming, is what I'm visualizing.
Yeah, but usually they ended up killing the families. This has been common. They kill the families, take the children. Yeah. It's interesting. You're asking me these questions, and for me, you know, that I don't know. I guess it's a sad thing that this is modern history. We're not talking about history from 100 years ago, 200 years ago. This is like now, you know, people don't think modern day slavery still exists, and it does. Yeah. But then I have to, you know, 6 years ago, again, it would have been, I would have picked up a book and read about the Rwandan genocide or something else. But I guess because I've actually seen it with my own eyes, I've been there, I've spoken with the people, I've been around the children, I've seen the effects, that it really has changed my perspective, and not perspective, but my entire life. You know, before this, yeah, I would have been like everybody else. I would have been going on with my life. I was a very, you know, I was a well-known Hong Kong actor, a very successful career in Hong Kong for many years, doing action film, people like co-starring with Jackie Chan. I had this really amazing life, and I gave that all up to do this work. But, you know, if it just happened kind of by chance in many respects, you know, and that's, I know you had someone from Ghana. That's where the work started for me, in Ghana. Yeah, working with an NGO called Challenging Heights. And that's how it began for me about 6 years ago. So, you know, if I didn't happen to witness seeing child slaves who'd been just rescued from slavery, you know, I guess I wouldn't be thinking about it. But that's the focus of my life now. And probably, I know it will always be. In fact, I feel very tied right now, like someone kind of chopped my ankles off, because I would have been right now, even though it's my birthday today, but this week I would have been off to Lebanon and Syria to bring supplies for the refugee camps there, because the last time I was there was end of October. So I would have been there again, and then going to Africa, Uganda later on this year. So, you know, it's really difficult for me not to be able to just get on the plane and bring all these supplies there. Yeah, so it's tough, but it is what it is. And I feel for their situation over there. It's really a catastrophe, not only in Lebanon and Syria, but, you know, in Uganda and other places in Africa, because as I said before, this lockdown within a lockdown that they're still in, they're not dying from COVID. The COVID cases are relatively low. You can look at the numbers throughout the African continent compared to the rest of the world. They are extremely low. Hopefully, you never know. We don't know with COVID what's going to happen, right? It can resurface in many other parts of the world. But right now, the numbers are low. They're not dying from COVID. They're dying from famine. They're dying from starvation.
Like right now, today in June 2020?
Yeah. Some of the orphans at those camps, they've died. The small children, from famine, from starvation, because there is no, you know, these are cultures that live from hand to mouth, right? They work that afternoon as hard as they can so that they can make enough money to feed their families at night.
The same day.
The same day. This is very common. We're talking, you know, hundreds of millions of people live this way. So
hundreds of millions.
Yeah. We've got, remember, Africa has, the continent of 54 countries has about 1.5 billion people. So that's 54 countries. And we're talking, the average wage is $1.25 a day. So $1.25 US a day per day. So like a gift of $25 would be a huge gift to them. Whereas in the US, we might give that as, you know, a neighbor we rarely see. Yeah, their daughter is having a graduation party, and we rarely see them, but, you know, we got to put something in the card. I sent $50 to this gentleman, Joel, who's on Portal. He just has 30 or 40 children, right? It was enough where they could survive for a month. 20 children, 30 children. Yeah. So that tells you, you know. And then, of course, the flooding.
So food must be extremely inexpensive, as far as once they have some money, they can go and buy some beans or something.
That is correct. I mean, since the lockdown happened, obviously the government, you know, we've got to remember Uganda, you have a despotic leader, President Museveni, who's been in office for I think going on now 38 years. And so the government has been kind of handing out sacks of beans. I have seen what's in the sacks of beans. I've been sent photos. It's mostly stones and rocks and rotten beans. When I saw the photos of it, they cut open the sacks, you know, like big 100-weight sack. It's full of rocks and stones and dirt, and the beans that are in these sacks, it's rotten. You know, I don't know how anybody could eat it or could
So
stomach it.
I'm visualizing someone in a field that's already been picked over using some rakes just to rake up the ground and put it into sacks.
Pretty much, yeah. You know, so this is why, like Morgan, have to leave the town where he was and go and try to find a piece of land, kind of hidden, where he can start growing some crop, and that's how he and his two friends are surviving. I mean, he just texted me today, you know, and of course they need, you know, they're trying to, they're very entrepreneurial, you know, he's trying to start maybe a small business or whatever, and he needs to buy the cow dung, you know, the cow manure and this and these other types of things, you know, and he needs some, I don't know, might be $350 to start this small enterprise. And so far he told me he has $77, you know, so he still has a ways to go, but you know, he's not going to give up. He knows it will happen, you know. So God bless them, I tell you.
Yeah. Well, and this Morgan is one of the people, one of the three people that connected with me, and Aisha looked into, you know, she wanted to make sure these were real people, and she said, you know, she thinks they're all real people and they really have these.
That is why I flew there, because who's to know? When I first spoke with the organizers, Mubiru Samuel, I have to name them, Job and Segawa, you know, I said, can you send me, do you have a website? Can you send me some photos? And of course they could send me photos from anywhere, right? That's so easy today. But it took a year before I, you know, talking back and forth, doing my own research. And I said, okay, the only way I'm going to know it is by going there. I got to have boots on the ground. And that's just how I am. Even though I put myself in some really precarious situations, but it's the only way I'm going to know. I'm going, and that's it. And then we'll see for sure, you know. And yeah, it's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. Yeah. So they're still in lockdown after 2 months. And when it's a situation, again, I've gotten video and photos of, it might be a single parent, a mother, a single father. And there's a lot of suicide going on because they cannot, you know, it's a cultural thing, losing face. And so they're hanging themselves by the nearest tree because they can't feed their children. And it's going on, it's a lot. Plus the domestic violence, but that is happening everywhere, especially, you know, here in America too, since the lockdown was happening. Obviously the restrictions here are being eased throughout the country, which is a good thing. Well, as long as people are being smart, which many are not. But yeah, Uganda still under lockdown, 2 months. I know they eased the restriction today in Lebanon, but you know, people are protesting, rioting like what was going on here. So it's a tough situation, yeah. So
taking Morgan as an example, suppose I'd like to send him to help with his farm, $10 US. How would I go about that?
MoneyGram, best way. Uganda used to use Western Union. They no longer do. I don't know if it was a government just cutting it out, but MoneyGram is the best. And, you know, that's so easy to send by MoneyGram. You know, their kiosks are throughout. I think they're in every CVS, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And that's how I send it. Yeah.
Is this, do you associate this with your credit card or your bank account?
No, no. What happens is no credit card, no bank account. It's a cash thing. You go to the kiosk.
No, like where would I go in the U.S.?
Yeah, you go to the MoneyGram. You'd go to the kiosk, the MoneyGram kiosk in CVS. And
CVS.
Yes,
okay.
CVS, the pharmacy. Yeah. What will happen is, for example, when you speak to Morgan, you say, okay, who am I sending it to? he'll give you the exact name that you need to type in. Then, you know, you put your own like driver's license, and then when you pay at CVS, you give them, let's say you're going to give them $10 or $20, you give them the $20, and then they charge you, I think it's like $7.99 fee for you to send it to them. And then there's a number on the receipt, and you send Morgan the number so that he can go pick up the money from his end. And I've never had an issue. It's perfect. It works. They get the money they can pick up the money the next day. Yeah.
But there's quite a fee. So you said the $10 send is a $7 fee. So that's...
well, yeah. I don't know if. Yeah, I would imagine whatever you're sending, for example.
Because you know, in the U.S. we use PayPal to send.
Yeah,
gifts.
I've sent $100. I've sent $50. I've sent $40, and it's been the same $7.99 fee.
Okay, yeah. So it's a set fee, maybe.
It's a set fee, yeah. Yeah.
And then what would Morgan have to do? I mean, Morgan's not necessarily near one of these.
Oh, he obviously he's not having an issue picking it up. So yeah, you know.
When you were talking with I'm sorry, the young woman from New York, you were explaining how someone had to walk back and forth.
Yes, that was Joel on the border portal. I had sent him, you know, $50, and I sent him $100 late, you know, when there's flooding. He literally had to walk. I felt so awful because what happened, I wrote one wrong digit on this thing. So when he gets there, you
texted it to him.
Yeah, after him walking for 8 hours.
Where did he walk to?
He had to walk to a local town that had a MoneyGram north of him. So I'm not sure what the town was, but I felt like I felt terrible that he had to walk 8 hours and then 8 hours back, only for me to realize, crap, I wrote out the wrong number, and then I sent it back to him. And then the following day he walked back. So it's a 16 hours round trip.
So do they get like actual cash in the local currency then out of the machine?
Ugandan shillings. Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a concern about larger amounts? Like if someone is standing behind you and you suddenly are taking out 50 US worth, I mean, that might be a large amount of currency.
There hasn't been any issues to this point. I've never known it. I've never heard of it personally. Any of the people, the organization, you know, the community-based organizations that I do send to, and this is a number of years now, so I've never heard of any issue with that. So that's a good thing. Yeah.
I'm wondering, Vincent, why do you go this way to do it rather than referring Morgan to an existing NGO or nonprofit, and then you funding the NGO to fund Morgan? I mean, this seems like, I mean, if there's 100 million people in Africa that are in desperate need of just enough money to plant some crops, a garden, let's say. I mean, you or I can't possibly make individual connections like that with that number of people.
Of course not. Well, it's a good question, and I'll answer in kind of two ways.
Sure.
When I started this work 6 years ago, I got angry with my own friends here in America that they would not think of spending $5 at Starbucks every day, more than once. Yeah, you can't give me that $5 for me to send. You know, it's like I've heard it from other colleagues. You know, you might have 5,000 Facebook friends. You got $5 from each. It's a big number, right? But unfortunately, and I got so angry with really close friends in the beginning. I mean, I really did. But I realized it's not that it's not important to them. They care and they're very respectful of the work they do. As they said, they couldn't do it, they wouldn't do it. And after a while, I said, you know what? Look, I shouldn't be getting upset with them. Before I started this work, I would have been maybe just like them. I might have reacted the same way. So I realized that it's impossible to help everyone. And even Oprah Winfrey, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, if all of them spent all their money focused just on the African continent, still couldn't fix the problem. Yeah. So I realized then, okay, I will help and start focusing in on who can I really help. Yeah. And I was traveling for a while, for a year. I was going all over the world, you know, from Myanmar to Thailand, to throughout the Middle East, throughout Africa, just to see how it's beyond one's comprehension, right? And then saying, okay, I know I can focus on one specific area, maybe one region, one country, what have you, and see what I can do. And so that's what it comes down to. But the answer to your other question, which is a good question, is that the three gentlemen, let's say in Uganda, running these three orphanages, they do have bank accounts. So one, I could, from my foundation, send the money directly from my foundation to their bank account, right?
From bank account to bank account, like ACH.
Yeah, we have tried that. The problem is, for them, they get charged such a ridiculous fee. So if you're sending, let's say, $40, they will be charged nearly $40.
Is this how the dictator gets his money then?
Sure. So it's not cost effective. Because
so is it through the national banks then that this fee is assessed? Yeah. And the national bank is owned by the government, yeah, which takes the money. And
plus their situation, you know, is so, as I say, from day to day, they could be waiting 10 days to get the money. Yeah. And with, you know, the situation in the past couple of months is that many of the children, as they said, you know, some children haven't eaten in a week, a whole week, nothing. So.
Nothing for a whole week, like.
Yeah, like 0 calories, yeah. So of course.
But people, even if they're just children, if they're just sitting still, they're gonna need between 800 and 1200 calories just to.
So the body
just to keep, yeah, just for the heart to work and the brain to work, yeah, and the blood to circulate and the temperature to stay up. I mean, a body, yeah, needs, yeah, so energy.
Exactly. So the body is basically dying. Everything's shutting down. And for the young children, it's not just like if we stopped eating for a week. Yeah, we'd feel very ill. We'd start feeling very lethargic, malaise, depressed. We'd be sleeping a lot. We'd feel pain in the stomach, abdominal region, and elsewhere. But a week we'd be fine. But the thing is, in Africa, you have, you know, the sub-Saharan tropical diseases. You have malaria, you have typhoid, and dengue fever, you know. So many of the children have these diseases as well. So this is why they're dying at alarming rates and have been during this the past 3 months. So anyway, back to what you were saying is that, yeah, the banking to banking does not work well at all. I mean, when it's been large amounts, okay, fine, you know, that's one thing. But yeah, small amounts of money, it really is not working. So, you know, it's also one of the reasons why, you know, people say, well, can we ship some clothes to Uganda? I said, No, because they won't get them. They'll be confiscated at when you ship a box over, and the corruption is so rampant that the people in will steal it anyway. So you can't even send it. So this is why for some of these places it's a very hands-on situation. I take it myself. Yeah, 400 kilos, and show them the UN ID, and they're like, okay, fine, you can go in. It's been very fortunate that way. I've never had a problem. Yeah, I took medical supplies to Lebanon. They were giving me a hard time when I landed, because as soon as they put it through the machine, they're like, what's all this stuff? UN ID has worked every time. So this is how I have gotten this type of stuff into the country with no issue. Yeah. So it's a tough one, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Now, you're being challenged by the one or two viewers online, and I'd like you to read you the challenge and then you to respond.
Good.
Is that okay?
I like being challenged.
Okay, so I'm not going to read the name of the person, but it says, disappointed with this, despite Vincent's on-the-ground experience, the longer-term perspectives on what to do is lacking. Rwanda has improved beyond expectations.
You are right.
But with issues. And then here's the second one.
Yeah.
So very disappointed. I cannot bear to watch this anymore. It is uninformed and insensitive given the BLM global campaign.
The first one, and I was going to mention that, actually, with what Rwanda went through, Rwanda is one of the best countries to be in Africa. They have done remarkably well. The economy is balanced, and it's pretty strong and stable. And yeah, and very safe compared to countries surrounding them. So yeah, whomever the person is, you're correct. Rwanda is doing extremely well. Insensitive to Black Lives Matter. I don't really understand why they would say that. We're talking about a situation that is a very sensitive situation. And I'm speaking with children. Some of them are definitely children. I still consider someone 18 a young person. And I'm speaking with these people every single day about their ongoing struggles. And as much as we might think that what we're going through, not to do with Black Lives Matter, I'm talking about COVID-19, the lockdowns that we have had to go through, this is nothing compared to what they are going through, nothing at all. And no one can argue the fact, unless you have gone there and seen it with your own eyes and been in those situations. I'm sorry, I would have to say there's nothing you can tell me that's any different. So we might be struggling, but no comparison. We have to stop complaining that we're struggling because of COVID-19. What they're going through and still going through now and will be going through for an extended period, they're dying because they have no food. This is the basic thing, let alone trying to get any medical attention. So do I know what the answer is? This is something I was talking with Regina. Everyone's trying to discuss, well, what can we do? What can we do to help? It's a struggle.
One thing when I've been chatting with my 4 new African friends is I've been encouraging, both the immediate need, addressing the immediate need, but then planning for the long term. And so yeah. I use the biblical adage, give a man a fish and he eats for a day, teach a man to fish and he can feed his family for a lifetime, or his community, or whatever it is. And so these young people who are all in their 20s or younger, I'm trying to encourage them to build basically grow a food forest,
Well,
grow a forest of food where you have these trees. And Aisha was mentioning these trees earlier that grow in Burkina Faso and other
yeah.
places where there's this very nice fruit, which is delicious, and that has the seed, which can be made into a butter. And these trees used to be all the way across the sub-Saharan region,
Mhm.
but clearly they've been cut on this side of the Rift Valley, and they're gone. But to
Yeah.
regrow these trees, that will not only provide food, which is life for those who are there, and it can be used as a basis of money. And I was explaining
Mhm.
that to Aisha, how to make it into a money. And but it can't just be, I mean, yes, the immediate need for the orphans and those that are malnourished needs to be addressed, but at the same time, it can't only be that, because
Right.
otherwise it's never going to get better. And
Well,
so that
one.
the food forest has to also happen, and those on the ground there who know how to do it, to invite them to share that with those
Mhm.
around them. And I know this is kind of like, oh, Aaron, why you don't know anything about this,
Well, no,
but
what I can definitely add to there. I was actually responsible for. We were able to access, and I got the funding and donations from colleagues, friends, of some more than $15,000. And we purchased 16 acres of agricultural land in Uganda for this community-based organization that, homes 1,200 children.
which
And
city was that in again, Vincent?
that was 3 years ago. That was in Namayumba, and they own the land. We got the contract. We bought the land from the landowner. We had to pay the fees to the Kingdom of Buganda. And so we got that land, and they own that land outright. And this was one of the first initiatives that I started so that they could be self-sustainable in terms of food. And that amount of land, and Uganda has probably, if not in the world, the most, the soil is definitely the most fertile. And so
How many acres were you able to?
16.
16 acres.
Yeah, that's a lot of acres.
And so 16 acres probably feed what, 4 people per acre, 10 people per acre?
Over a course of, well,
And in the long run.
I think many more than that. Yeah, I think many more than that. They were growing everything, posho from bananas to, plantain to lettuce, all sorts of fruit. I mean, within one season, they were growing. And what was wonderful, and to add to what you were saying about teaching them how to fish, what was being also taught as an initiative was teaching the students agriculture, about growing crops. So they were learning this. So it's obviously something for them, for their future. So, but the issue, once again, during this lockdown, is that they haven't even been allowed to get to their own land to feed themselves, which is what they own. They haven't been allowed out. When we say what a lockdown is in America, we can go out in the car, we can drive, we can still get on a bus, we can still go in the car, we can still go to the supermarket. They haven't been allowed to leave their premises, leave their community.
What is preventing them, Vincent, from doing that?
The government.
I mean, what does it mean, the government? Does it mean a man with a AK-47 standing on the street?
Yes.
Why are these men standing there? I mean, why are they there? Do they not?
Well, we're also the country, like here very recently within the past week, have had constant curfews. So like many other parts of the world. But whereas here, nobody kind of abides by curfews. There it's much more.
Because they violate our freedom of movement. And so, you
I
know,
know, but
from a certain religious perspective, you know, if you want to go to the religion side, God hath given us the right to move wherever we want by, you know, his gift. So if you want to go from that angle, governments cannot take away what, you know, God has given. So
but they do. I mean, I don't make up the rules here. Yes, I agree with you 100%, but they do. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you, you know. I've been in multiple war zones, and whether it's Syria, Iraq, you know, South Sudan, I mean, you can't do much when you're staring down the face of an AK-47 or a tank. Yeah. So
how are they able to control the entire country, though? It's many roads. I mean, there's so much.
You're right. And people will do like Segawa, who heads up this community-based organization. I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago. He says, you know, we're supposed to not go out. He says, but I'm kind of sneaking out in the night to go to, you know, the farm, to the land, and try to take a few fruits or what have you. Yeah. And obviously other people are doing that too, from around the community, where even though this land is specifically for the orphans, you know, you have other people from other townships will go to the land because they know there's food there and take it for themselves. But that's understandable. If you're hungry, you do what you have to do.
How far of a walk are we talking about from the orphanage to this farm?
You could be talking like you need to walk a couple of hours.
Oh, okay. So not close. So that would, a couple hours would be,
6 miles.
Let's see, 6 miles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it that the orphans can't move there and camp? Because they're not being allowed to.
Yeah.
How many orphans are we?
And the orphans are in a school setting, you know, some dormitories and so forth, you know, bathrooms. Yeah. And this was all built.
But no food. So they've got bathrooms, but no food.
Yeah.
Beds and no food.
This was all built originally by the students as well. But yeah, the land that we needed to buy, obviously trying to find the land at the right price and in a good place, and also very, you know, fertile land that will grow the crop that they need every other season. Yeah.
Every other season? Why every?
Well, one season will grow a certain kind of crop, and then the next season, it's kind of like, you know.
How many seasons in a year for this part of Africa? Are we talking 2, 3, 4? What are we talking?
I believe we're talking 2 seasons. Yeah. So think of like Maryland, where they might grow corn one year and soya the next year. Yeah. Yeah. But they're growing many things, not just 2 types of things. Yeah. So they are growing corn, they are growing, you know, posho, they are growing beans and soya and certain types of fruits. Yeah. Cassava, this type of thing. Yeah.
So this farm must be outside of town quite a ways then.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's something, but the people who live close to there are going there at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
originally when I was there a couple of years ago, you know, to kind of survey the land and so forth, one could see that, okay, unless you put up a fence or have a security guard standing there, you know, even then, when obviously this is a couple of years ago before COVID, is that even Sego was saying, you know, people from around the neighborhood were coming in and stealing the food. So they thought maybe put up a barricade or have a security guard there, but, you know, obviously we're in a different time now, but that never happened. Yeah.
Is this something, can I ask a question that you may feel is indelicate?
No.
I can't ask that.
No. Yeah, sure. No. Yeah. I'm saying no, as in, I doubt anything could be indelicate, but the whole situation is indelicate, you know. Yeah. Obviously by the way this person reacted, that they can't listen to this anymore. Well, you know, yeah. It's
so this isn't, So I don't want to come off as being insensitive, but
No, no.
it seems like if the food is there and it's
Yeah.
growing right
Yes.
now,
Sure.
it would make sense if the children have built an orphanage for them to, when possible, build the orphanage on that land and then live there.
That's not indelicate. That's a big cost. Sadly, like everywhere, it always comes down to dollars and cents.
Yeah, but in Africa, what's a big cost, Vincent? Is that $100? Is that $1,000?
No, to buy that land costs $15,000.
No, I mean to build a building that they could live in.
In that particular, that's 250 students one has to house. I think we talked about that, $10,000. Yeah, still a big cost.
Yeah, sure.
Mean, it is and it isn't. I mean, but it is. Yeah, it's a huge cost for them, but it's a big cost for many people here.
But you mentioned earlier, like 5,000 Facebook friends, $2, and MoneyGram with only a fee of $8.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry if that was rude.
No, look, it wasn't. As I said, I've been doing this for 6 years, and I've met, amazing other wonderful people who are trying to do similar things in other parts of the world. And there's stumbling blocks every single day. Yeah. If I could be on an international flight tomorrow, I would be back in Syria, but it's impossible. Couldn't get there anyway. I'd be under the quarantine for God knows how long. Yeah. Just going back, I can tell you, when I went to Syria in October of last year, I brought about 300 kilos of clothing and school supplies. When my colleague picked me up from Beirut to drive across the Syrian frontier border, that's about 2 hours, 3-hour drive. They confiscated all the supplies at the border. And I said, well, you can go through it all. There's no electronics, there's nothing. It's clothing for the children that have nothing. And you have so many children that not only are they being left orphaned from 10 years of civil war, I said, these are your children. I'm talking to the immigration people at the border, as my colleague who's from Syria. And they said, we know, and we thank you for bringing it, but we have to go by the laws of the land, and we have to confiscate it. If you can get the stamp from the seal from the child.
So they stole it from you, and then they put it in a store, and then they sold it. And then they made the money.
They didn't do that. They just confiscated it and put it in a locker. They said, look, if you can get the stamp, if you can get the paper from the Child Rights Society in Damascus, then come back. And so it took a week through hell on earth to get all this paperwork that they required. And then after 7-8 days, we drove back to that same border crossing.
Where are we talking about again? I want to look at this on the map.
Okay. If you look...
which country are we talking about?
Well, let's say Lebanon, Syria, and then...
Okay, just a second.
Sure.
Okay. Can I throw the map up again?
You can throw the map up.
All right. So Lebanon, Syria, on the border, like the northern border?
No, not the northern border near Homs or Aleppo. No. This would be
near Damascus.
Yeah. Look, first find Beirut.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Okay. If you pull it up closer.
Yeah.
well, much closer. I'm going to even put my glasses on for this one.
You want me to put Beirut? Oh, it's on your phone. I'm sorry. I should have asked you to put your laptop on.
Yeah, I should. Actually,
so here's Beirut. So Beirut is right on the Med, and it looks extremely developed, and it looks like a huge city.
I just want to mute this on the. Yeah, let me just. I'm pulling it up on the computer too. I'm on full screen. Okay, there's Beirut, right? And basically, if you drive pretty much, let's see, yeah. Okay, so you're going to be driving east.
Yeah, we're going to take this freeway, express highway. Yep.
Yeah, and you're going to go basically down and around and up till you get to. Now, if you look at, if you can pull up where Beirut and then pull up Damascus.
If I zoom out a little bit, I'll be able to see Damascus. Yeah. Just a second.
Yeah.
There's Damascus. Okay. Yep. Over here. So Beirut is kind of up to the left, and Damascus is kind of down to the right.
Yeah,
so
correct. So you basically the drive is, you know, it's a good 2.5 hour drive. So it's pretty much straight across.
Okay, yeah. Let me pull up the border map, because I don't like looking at the border map, but okay. So we're looking right here on this freeway 30, and it says Masna, Lebanon, Syria border crossing.
Yeah, correct.
All right, I'm going to bring this back to the satellite view. It looks like is it a freeway or just a regular road there?
No, it's not a freeway. It's probably dual lane highway. Yeah, okay. 2 on either side. Yeah.
Okay, so this is where you were, somewhere along here you were stopped because there's a border guards, or they have buildings. Is it like?
That's it. That's the crossing right there. Yeah, it's border guards, of course. Yeah, but it's pretty, because first of all, you drive through the Lebanon side, so you have to go through their security. They, you know, stamp the passport. You drive for another mile in kind of no man's land.
And I see. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Gotcha. And then you go through the Syrian side. Yeah.
I see. Oh, yes. Okay. So I can see that there's like the crossing here on the Syrian side, and it's very.
Correct. Yeah.
It's big. It's a large.
Oh yeah. No. It's very yeah.
Semis and all sorts of stuff here.
Sure.
Okay.
New Jersey barriers and all that stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Stop center, supermarket, gas station. Okay. So you were coming from Lebanon with a truck to Damascus, and you were stopped at this border point.
Yeah. We were driving a 4x4, the colleague's private car. Yeah. And I brought the stuff in. I had no problem bringing it into Lebanon. We put it in the back. We drove right to the, and funnily enough, it was the day that the protests started in Lebanon. So when we got to the border, the actual road was blocked. We weren't allowed to go. There was Humvees there. The protest for democracy had broken out that day that I landed. Gunshots went off in front of our car.
When was this? Can you name a date on that?
Yeah, it's. I just wrote an article about it a couple of days ago for the Medium. It was October, maybe 21st, 22nd, something like that of last year.
Okay, 2019.
Yeah. So we got to the Lebanon side of the border, and we were blocked. And gunshots went off and in front of the car, and we backed up and tried another route, and we got blocked again. And finally, on the third attempt, we got through. And so, yeah. And then, as I said, the things were confiscated. But, luckily, has had fate. fate was on my side. Excuse me. We got the paperwork and we drove back to the border about 8 days later, and they signed off and they gave me the stuff. Yeah.
Then I'm curious what happened next.
I took all the things to the Syrian Child's Rights Society, and they
That's in Damascus somewhere.
That's in Damascus, correct? Yeah, and they sorted everything out, and we're very, very happy and glad that I was able to get it to them and so forth. And of course, I was supposed to be there right now. Yeah, with more.
Where did all these clothes come from, Vincent? Where did you get them?
One thing, clothes I can get from everybody's willing to give me clothes. Yeah. For the Child's Rights Society, basically they wanted, I kind of had kind of adult clothes, but for them, they want clothing from the ages of 3 to 17. Yeah.
Now, if people, where are you right now, like physically?
I'm physically in Southern Florida.
Okay.
I don't live here. I live in New York City. I've been based in New York City for 15 years. But when COVID started 3 months ago, I kind of saw the train wreck that was going to hit New York and came down here because, I have a place down here.
So I'm curious, are you asking for clothing? And if so, how would people get the clothing to you? Or are you all set?
No, I'm all set. Yeah,
okay.
I have more than enough. It's actually all sitting in these propylene bags that I use. I find it's the best because they're see-through, so customs can see what's in it, but no, I'm all set with that. Yeah, thank you though. Yeah. Okay. Actually, I'm flying back up to New York tomorrow. Yeah.
Can I ask you like an aside, just that really doesn't follow directly from our conversation?
Okay.
Rojava.
Ah, okay.
I understand it's being so this is, and I'll bring it up on the map again for the people who are viewing. But my understanding is Rojava is this area of Syria, which is in the north, kind of the northeast, and
yeah, that's where the fighting is still going on.
And the Rojava region is being, like the men, many of them have died. And so it's actually the women and children who remain, and the women have basically, in the absence of any other government, they have created a system of government for themselves.
Yeah, so are we talking the ones, are they living free, or the ones in the Al-Hol refugee camp to the east?
That's a good question. Let me pull this up and then you can.
I'm staring at it right here. I'm looking at the telephone, which is automatic, but then here's the map on my screen. So
okay, just a second. Let me make this bigger.
Okay. Well, let's see. We're talking, if you look at the city of Aleppo, right, which is...
Can you see? Look on your phone for a second.
Okay.
So this is the area we're talking about. And then on the Wikipedia page, it has a few images. I'll just scroll down and show you. Gotta go faster.
Okay.
So this is showing kind of how it was smaller, and then it kind of grew, and then but it's being pushed back basically.
Yeah. Well, the Rojava conflict, right? Because that was Deir as a daughter, which is where ISIS were very much dominated that region for quite a while. Yeah. They came in from Iraq. So yeah, that region is it's still unstable. Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious because I saw a report out of there a month or two ago, and it interested me that the women had organized themselves in the absence of anything else, and that they're running it more as a, you know, a kind of a, they have councils, town councils, at least at one time. I don't know if they're still being attacked at the moment, then I'm sure, but they were all armed, and they had, you know, they had a security force which was almost entirely women. And
Right.
so I just didn't know if you were familiar with that or.
No, not really, not really. I didn't
Okay.
get to that. I didn't get to that particular region. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I know that we had originally talked about 90 minutes for a talk, and that's where we're at right now. So where would you like to go from here? I mean, I'm happy to be on the call as long as you like, but
we could go on another 30 minutes. I'm fine. If you have questions, yeah. I don't want to bore anyone.
Well, you know, people that are on this particular channel who are subscribers, a lot of them have watched like 3 and 6 hours stuff.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's
well,
amazing.
I'm not saying everybody is, but for the people that are, you know, and I'm learning too, so I appreciate your time.
No, I mean, look, Aaron, we could, you know, when I get back to New York, we could follow up with this. I mean, you know, the interesting thing, this is look, we are living in unimaginable times, you know, for this generation. I mean, for sure, there's no question. And so this is a very fluid situation, as you know, not only fluid here, but fluid everywhere on the planet. Certainly no more than in third world nations, certainly no more places like Lebanon, Syria, Myanmar, Central Africa. Yeah. So
Yemen, Western Yemen has been the one that has been concerning me the most, actually.
I was born there.
In Yemen?
Yeah, I was born in Aden. Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that is my father.
Are you of Lebanese descent? Because your complexion does not give me that impression.
No. My father's Chinese, my mother's British. So I have multiple, you know, citizenships. But my father was in the Royal Air Force. He was an aircraft engineer, and he got sent to Yemen, which was then, you know, Aden, right? So I only was there as a child, you know, a couple of years, and then my parents left. We were in Khartoum, as I said, Sudan. We were in Libya as well, and so yeah. So yeah, Yemen is a very terrible situation. My goodness. Yeah, I've been trying to get back to Yemen now for quite a number of years, but I haven't had any luck yet.
Can I share something?
Sure.
Do you mind? So I was on a call with on Monday night, and I was talking with one of the top world economists. His name is Dr. Steve Keen out of Australia, and then one of the women I consider to be the top world futurists. Her name is Nicole Foss, and she currently is living in New Zealand. But she, I think, was born in England and lived in Canada for a good portion of her life. And we were talking about the global economic system as a wealth accumulation mechanism, a machine, basically, that by the use of money itself, that it sucks from the poorest areas of the world all resources, and it collects them in Europe and the United States primarily. And when I look at the map, you know, of South America or Africa, and I see that it looks like it's being attacked by an alien invader. It looks like it's just everything's being sucked out of there, like all the life and all the wealth. And, you know, I look around in my office here, and it's just unbelievable, the difference. I mean, I have hundreds of books, you know. I've got food in the pantry. You know, we've got 2 acres that we're putting a garden in. And, you know, we have an income, which is typical US income for my wife, for example. You know, she's getting a middle income. And if you just say a middle income, that's like 30,000 US a year, or 50,000 US a year. And then you're talking about people in Africa who need like $1 to live 5 days for food, you know? And how I know that the global trade is just sucking stuff out of Africa, like this tree that I was talking about, where there's the nuts that's the butter is made out of. Well, that butter if I'm wrong, correct me if you know about this. My understanding is that butter, which can be eaten as butter, is sold on the international market, brought to wherever it's processed and made into cosmetics for women to put on their face.
Yes.
And so this food, this wealth that they have there is being drawn away, and all they get back is these dollars, which it does not seem like they're helping. I mean, you're talking about roads. You're talking about roads that have 1-inch thick asphalt, and you're talking about like the World Bank and the IMF, which they will loan you the money, but then now you have to pay it back.
Well, you know, China has been, I don't want to use the wrong word, but certainly they've been taking much of Africa's wealth. They've been also building a lot of infrastructure there. I was actually really surprised when I first was in Uganda, and I couldn't believe all the Chinese businesses, you know, but with Chinese calligraphy, the names. I mean, big factories and so forth. They had built, the last time I was in Uganda.
What are they making there? What are they manufacturing in these factories?
They're building a lot of things. They're building now all brand new roads. That was the last time I was there. I couldn't believe it. This brand new road they had built to the airport. Nice, brand new, a good road, you know. So, but the thing is, you know, they want what Africa. It's a shame that with all the wealth on the African continent, they don't need anybody. We would be begging them, because, you know, we take coffee, we take gold, platinum, cobalt, which Democratic Republic of Congo has 80% of the world supply of cobalt.
What does the world economy use with cobalt? Is this going into phones or something, or solar panels?
We wouldn't be able to do what we're doing right now if it wasn't for cobalt.
Computers,
yeah,
electronics,
computers, iPhones. Yeah, it's if you were an African person,
a person who grew up in Africa and all your roots were back to Africa, and you were to look at this from like the outer space view, would it be wrong for you to say that Africa is being attacked, as in like a war, but like a secret war?
But it seems to have always been that way, back to British colonialism, right?
Well, I'm not saying this is a new war.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only continent on the planet that was completely colonized by the Belgians, by the Dutch, by the Portuguese, as you know, by the British. And most of the African nations got their independence during the 60s. But you also have many of them. Not
independence all, as in sovereign yeah, and independent from all other world economies?
Yeah.
No.
From colonizers, from the Brits, from the Dutch, from the Belgians.
Sure, but were they self-sufficient as in no longer dependent on the world economy, or were they doing imports and exports, which is going to strip their wealth?
Well, that I can't answer, but I do I do know that, you know, without strong, trustworthy leadership, then you have what seems to be happening right here under our noses.
Are all these countries led by men? How many of them are led by women? I would like to know.
That number I don't know. You'd have to check that, but I don't. I think it's very few. Yeah, very, very few. And maybe there isn't any that are led by women, but again, I don't know. And I don't. Yeah, I'm sure that's easy to find out. That I don't know. Yeah. You know.
But you're talking about China and Uganda.
Yeah, yeah, and they're all throughout Africa. I wouldn't be surprised if they're in every country in Africa, stealing the spoils. Yeah, building infrastructure, no doubt, roads and this and that, and electrical grids and so many things. But Africa has everything we need. It has oil. It has, as we said, cobalt, cacao. It has, sugar and fruit and vegetables and all the things that the rest of the world needs. So they don't need us at all. We need them. Yeah. We'd be begging.
Is China stealing from Africa, so to speak, in order to make stuff to sell to the US and Europe? I mean, is it kind of like stepwise like that?
I don't know if they're doing, I don't know that for sure, but I would think that they need it for their own source, their own country. Yeah.
Is it that they're sending the excess men to Africa, like because they had this one child policy and there's like.
I sat on a flight next to a Chinese young man, couldn't have been 30, 28 maybe. He was a diamond broker. So he was in Sierra Leone, taking diamonds back to China. He must have had a Britannica full of diamonds. How on earth he got it through the what have you?
What do you mean by Britannica? Like
the size of a Britannica. That's like yay big, yay thick, full of diamonds. And he showed it to me.
Okay, like a single volume out of the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah.
It was filled with diamonds, as in those diamonds that we go to the jeweler and we buy one that's a half a carat for $2,000, that kind of diamond?
So it was diamonds that were polished, and then there was rough diamonds as well.
Where was he taking them from?
Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone?
Yeah.
And who extracted these diamonds from the ground?
Local miners, but
so was it this man, you think?
Well, he certainly didn't do it himself. I know that.
So who did this work?
Local people, of course. Many of which are, again, many of the ones that actually go through the ordeal of going, straining the dirt.
Do they realize that these diamonds will sell for like $2,000 US each diamond?
Of course they do. That's why they get them. Come on.
No. I mean the ones who are working in the mines.
Yeah, they know that, but they will get a little portion of money, whatever they take out at the end of the day. Remember, again, it's hand to mouth. Yeah,
Are these adults or children working in these mines?
Both, but mostly children.
Like children, like my son, 12, almost 13. My son.
Yeah, you're younger. This is a known thing. I again, I don't mean to be, you're asking me these questions, but this is not anything new information.
Well, it's information. I'm asking in this way for two reasons. Number one, it's information that I noticed years ago,
okay,
but it's ongoing. And the second thing is, not everybody was exposed to this information. I mean, for people who watch television, for example, and there are many people who watch television, and they watch television a lot. And there are a lot of people who go on Facebook and other media, and they read the articles that are posted by the mainstream media, and that's their source of information. And so they're watching television, which is giving them what sells advertising, and
Yeah.
they're reading these articles, which is what brings advertising revenue in, but they're not actually getting actual information, actual facts. You know, most of it's opinion, and most of it's very, oh, you know, this is Democrats versus Republicans here in the U.S. happening in such and such a place. You know, this is Donald versus Joe, and it's the Donald and Joe show, and we're just going to talk about the two of them, and that's all we're going to talk about.
I want to tell you a story.
Go ahead.
True, happened to me. And this is the types of things that I have faced and is an ongoing battle. The first country that I got this experience was Ghana, as I said. It's a town called Winneba, south of Accra, the capital. The gentleman, his name is James Kofi Annan. He's just the most, I love him to death. He was a former child slave himself. You can go and look and Google him.
Now, this is not the same one who people will be familiar with.
Not the former Secretary General, no. James Kofi Annan, and if you just type in James Kofi Annan, Challenging Heights. He is the founder of Challenging Heights. 15 years ago, James Kofi Annan was a former child slave for 6-7 years. He escaped from slavery. He taught himself basically how to read and write. He put himself through school. He got his master's, I believe, degree in banking. But all those, he became very successful, actually. And but he never forgot where he came from, being stolen and being put into captivity as a child slave.
Do you mind if I throw this website up as a slide?
No, please do.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I just spoke with him a few days ago. Yeah. They just did a very, very famous big documentary that aired, I think in March on PBS, 2-hour documentary on PBS. And I have known James for quite a while now. Met many times. The last time I saw James was in Ghana when I was there in August, or actually September. Yeah, August, I believe. Yeah.
Is this he just here? Can you see?
Yeah, that is James, correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So he looks like he's maybe 35 now, maybe?
A little older. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's actually now going into politics, but Challenging Heights is still running. And their organization is bar none. If other models in parts of Africa could follow his model, it's something maybe it's possible to eradicate child slavery throughout the continent. They've had amazing success in the 15 years. With shelters, he's brought teams from Britain, psychologists, child psychologists, nurses, doctors that help in the running of the shelters and so forth. He's gotten big funding, Ford Foundation and the like. He's spoken with kings and queens and you name it, UN, Parliament. I mean, all over the world he still does that. In fact,
what do you imagine his future is? I mean, do you imagine that
he wants
the head of the African Union or something?
He'd be amazing, and if he did, hey, he's got my vote. You know,
because there is an African Union at one time. Yeah. There was at least.
Yes, no, there still is. Yeah, I've met the Secretary General of the African Union at the UN. Yeah. So there is one. But I'll tell you of a story. We had planned a rescue in the township of Winneba. Winneba has about 40,000 people. It's a fishing village. And what happens is that slave masters come down from the north of Ghana, from Lake Volta. And this is where
in Burkina Faso?
No, in Ghana. Lake Volta. It's the largest man-made lake in the world. It was built by US engineers during the 60s for hydroelectric power. That is throughout Ghana and neighboring countries.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But at any one time, there are about 25 to 30,000 child slaves working on that lake in the fishing industry. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to throw this up on the slide again, just to show the people out there. And it's kind of interesting that you're talking about this, because when I was on the line with Aisha, you know, she lives in Accra, and
Okay.
I was noticing the dam.
I saw about that.
I was noticing actually this small reservoir near in the city, but I hadn't really seen this lake you're referring to, which is, it is massive, isn't it? So
no, it's huge. No, I've been on that lake many times.
Now, is this a natural lake, or, oh, I see they have a dam just here, don't they?
No, it's man-made, as I said. Yeah.
A huge dam. Bridge View Akosomba Dam. Akosomba.
Yeah. Correct.
So what are the children doing here? I mean, what is it that, why are they being stolen?
For the fishing industry. The fishing industry is an enormous business, both for, especially for export, and for
export. So the people that are buying the fish are basically paying the people who went to steal the children to go steal them. And then are these children being paid, or just only in food?
No, they're not being paid at all. No.
So just food.
No. So they've been either 50% of the children have been sold by their own parents, 50% have been kidnapped. But let me tell you the story.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Vincent.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Is that we were supposed to do a rescue from this township, Winneba. And a rescue is not something you can decide, oh, I'm going to go rescue a child, and you go out and do it. No, it's something that has to be the logistics, planning. You have to have, the government must know that this is going to happen. You have to have the security team in place. You have to have the, like what we would say, EMS or EMTs in place. And maybe even the local policing, security or community as well on standby. So all these things were done, all the planning, which was weeks and weeks of planning. And of course, it costs money to do this. So when, you know, Challenging Heights has done this, they did 2 rescues or do 2 rescues a year. Of course, then they have to get donations for the planning. So all this was in place, and they even had the local, or I should say national news in place. So I'm walking with James, and we see hundreds and hundreds of children all running around, you know, what have you.
Was this in Winneba?
Yeah, Winneba. And we're ready to execute this rescue, arrest the slave masters. And at the 11th hour, we got a call from the Ministry of Interior in the government telling us that we had to cease and desist. Cease and desist. Otherwise, we'd all be arrested. It happened to be that particular year, there was a changeover in the government presidency. And so.
In Ghana.
Yeah, they didn't want to look like, when this news would come out.
Who is this new president? Is this the current president?
Yeah, it would be the current one. And
are you willing to say his name, or don't want
No, I'm not.
Okay, go ahead.
That the situation, that this is existing and as bad as it is. So we had to stop. And I turned around, and we were walking back up the stairs from this village, these stone steps. And there were 2 little girls sitting on the step. They were clutching each other's hand. And 9, 10 years old. He said, they'll be taken. And nonchalantly, he said it. Didn't even skip a beat. But remember his life, remember his background. For me, the blood was boiling. I was fuming. And I got choked up, of course, you know. And I said, there's nothing we can do. As we went up, there was a little boy, and this photo has been used a lot in the media and so forth, and for publications. There's a little boy, he couldn't have been 7, maybe 7 years old, maybe 6. and ragged, torn pants, no shoes on, no shirt. And he was sitting there, and I stood away from him, and his gaze, his look, he was completely still. The only thing he was doing was his hand, he was scratching himself like in his groin region, like he had like an itch or something like that, But his look, it just looked away, didn't move. And I hate, I'm not one for doing this, but I just took a snapshot, boom. And the photo is amazing. It's one of those things you might see in National Geographic, And I'm just, because his look, I'm like, what's on his mind? What is he thinking? To this day, I don't know where he is, if he got taken or what. But that's the kind of thing we have to go up against. And the slave masters came in and they took whomever they wanted. And, it's a terrible situation, absolutely. And the interesting thing, Ghana is one of the best countries on the African continent. Good economy, stable country, and good leadership. But this child slavery still exists. And when I found out how much they were being sold for one child, take a guess. You want to talk about being indelicate here? Yeah. You don't have to guess.
I will take a guess, but only because I think you will say it's too high. $10.
A little too low. $18. $18. Yeah. And on my trip back,
so you're saying a family that has a 10-year-old,
yeah,
or has too many 10-year-olds to feed, they will pick one and say this one is for sale for $18.
Yeah. Now on Lake Volta in Ghana specifically, it's most of the boys are doing the fishing. The girls are taken primarily to do housekeeping, cook, that kind of thing, those kind of things. Yeah.
As slaves, though, not paid.
Yeah. No, not paid. But the boys are the ones that do the hard labor, do the fishing. The fishing industry is
who are they working? Who are the girls being made to work for? These
slave masters.
Why is there not, if the government is good, why is the government not come in and arrest the slave masters?
A great question. Who knows? So it takes organizations like Challenging Heights and others to try to save some of the children. Yeah.
Are we talking about tens or hundreds or thousands?
Well, at any one time, like right now as we're talking, there's probably 25 to 30,000 children on the lake fishing. Yeah. And we're not talking about having a nice reel and throwing it across. No, the nets it's like a fishing net, the ones that they cast off from these wooden boats. But the thing is, the water on Lake Volta is very murky. So even if you were a good swimmer and had, a mask, snorkel, you and I would have trouble untangling those nets at the bottom. But they throw the children over because the children have very tiny hands and they can untangle.
Throw as in to toss?
Yeah. To untangle the nets that get caught when it's dredged on Lake Volta.
This sounds like very risky for the children's lives.
Yeah, many die. Of course, they drown. And speaking to a slave master, you want to, and I'm not laughing in jest, I'm just, child costs $20, the net costs $200. Pure business. That's how they look at it.
Money.
If they lose a few children, no big deal, but my net costs $200. So, and it costs a lot to make another one. And that's how it's looked at from the slave master's point of view. Yeah. It baffles the imagination. You want to reach across the desk and choke him to death. But, you know, yeah.
Can I insert a thought?
Sure.
This reminds me of when, you know, George was murdered. And it also reminds me of in the newspapers and the media, this thing about property and buildings matters too. Like, you know, the fact that George died, oh boy, that's, you know, that's sad, but, you know, buildings matter as well.
Pathetic. Yeah. Pathetic. Remember, you can rebuild a damn thing. Yeah. Can't bring these children back.
Well, and when you're building something, there's insurance for most things, and that makes work. It makes work for people.
And when I came back to the States, I know this is going to sound kind of strange, but I had taken the wrong socks, and it was the rainy season. And I had taken socks, winter socks for the Western Hemisphere. So my feet were like
sweaty,
rashes and everything. Yeah. Jungle rock type of thing. So I needed to pick up the right socks. So this Army and Navy store, I go in Midtown in New York. Went in there and I'm looking on. I said, you know, any good socks? This is for Central Africa. And he says, oh, forget about that. Don't even look at the wall. I said, he said, I've got some in the back. So he comes from the back store and with a box, you know, random sock. And he said, you need these. I said, okay, fine, great. I said, give me 3 pairs. He said, 20. I said, how much is that? He said, $60. I said, $60? I said, $20 for a pair of socks. He said, you want the best socks, right? For that? He says, these are the ones. I said, okay. It was pouring with rain outside. It's like around 36th Street, Midtown. And I started walking and all of a sudden, it hit me like a gale force wind. And I just slumped down on a step in front of a shop and I started bawling, crying. Because it just hit me that I just spent $60, basically the price of 3 children. And it just hit me in that strange way. And I just sat there. I must have cried for 30 minutes. Yeah. And that happens every now and again. Certain things trigger certain events that I've experienced or witnessed. And it's tough, you know. Yeah. I've certainly seen too much. And certainly I would admit, you know, I've had PTSD, no doubt, and spoken to a wonderful therapist in New York, and we've had wonderful discussions, and she's been extremely helpful, you know, and that's part of the work. Yeah, it's tough.
I had not the same sense of things when I went shopping yesterday, but having talked with Aisha for a few days and really calculating that, you know, $1 can feed a child in Africa for 5 days, a single dollar. And then going through the Costco and looking at the items, and
yeah.
I like dried mango, and the bag of dried mango, which was just a luxury for me, of course, was $17. And I thought about how many I was going to buy, and then I was like,
yeah, this
is just.
It's, yeah, I agree. It's funny living in New York City, you know, everything's kind of, you know, Dean and DeLuca, all these kind of like hoity-toity, like, you know, $5 for an apple type of store, you know. And then coming down here, you know, taking my father out, trying to get him on the whole social distancing. Dad, you got to wear the mask. And my father's 83, you know. And the first couple of weeks, he was, it was tough. It was difficult. I'm like, Dad, we're coming home. We came from outside. Take all your clothes off, throw it in the washing machine, go take a shower. But going into, Costco, you know, and just seeing the amount of food, I was like, I started getting upset. What are you talking about? Running around as if you are going to run out of food, toilet paper, or whatever other kind of crap where you're running out. Like this, we're not running out of food. Our food supply, we waste more food than every other country on the planet combined. We have our foods. We're not running out of food anytime soon or anytime in our lifetime. So
you know what this reminds me of? A film from 1984. It was a Robin Williams film called Moscow on the Hudson.
Yeah, great.
So he starts as a Russian,
yes.
And we see him in Russia where they have to line up for toilet paper and where they have to line up for bread. And yeah. I don't remember if it shows him going into a store in Russia, but somehow he makes his way to the US and he goes into a grocery store and he starts like looking at all the stuff and he's like, coffee, so many kinds of coffee. And he just has like, he has like this kind of breakdown because he's like, how is it possible that in Russia we have nothing? And in the US, I mean, people complain because they don't have the one they want. They don't have the certain size, for example.
Yeah, interestingly enough, one of my first experiences kind of seeing that was my former ex-wife was from Belarus. She actually was born in Siberia, and during the Chernobyl crisis, the family moved to Belarus. Obviously, the wind forced that blast from Chernobyl in the direction of Belarus, so they went the wrong way. But anyway, so her family she grew up in Belarus, and I went to Belarus. I've actually traveled to 120 countries. So Belarus, why not? Let's go. So I remember one day we're out and we're driving and we dropped the mother off. And I said, where's your mother going? Oh, she's going to go pick up some meat, some sausages. I said, well, why don't we wait for her? She said, well, she's got to stand in line. I said, well, sounding like a complete clown. I said, well, okay, we can stand in line. No, she'll be back later. I said, well, how much later? Got to stand in line for 5-6 hours to get some meat, sausages. And we're not talking about rump steak or whatever, just basic sausages. Yeah. She had never eaten fish until she came. We were able to bring her over to New York for a visit, for a holiday. Never eaten fish before in her entire life. Yeah. So, yeah, we really don't know how lucky we have it. I'm telling you. Yeah. She was a gymnastics coach for the national Belarusian team, and she made $150 per month. So, yeah, it's amazing how we don't realize how fortunate we are. We truly are blessed here. Yeah.
We're either blessed or we're cursed with the fact that we are stealing from the rest of the world.
Yeah, well, yes. At least we're blessed that we have roof over the head. We have tank of gas, car in the garage. As you say, unlimited food for most of us. Yeah. Clean water, turn the tap on. Water's clean. Don't have to worry about getting scurvy or malaria or something else. Yeah, I mean, so we are.
Don't have to worry about selling our children to slavery.
Yeah, I mean,
free public schools.
Yeah, and maybe I can end on this, and we will hopefully we can do this again.
Absolutely, you have an open invitation anytime, Vincent.
Yeah, these children have changed my life. The ones I've met in Syria, in Lebanon, Palestine, Uganda, Ghana, they have changed my life and changed the purpose of my life. Yeah. And everything I do is to try to help them and aid them in however I as one person and my network can help them, and that's really why I'm here. All the other stuff, yeah, it's narcissistic, you know, the movie stuff and playing at Carnegie Hall, or all this stuff. It's wonderful, and don't get me wrong. I'm glad I've been able to be fortunate enough to be able to do these wonderful things, but it doesn't even come close to doing this work. Yeah. So I don't know if you have something to ask, but that's my 30 seconds. Yeah.
Well, I feel like there's many of us we have tapped into our feeling of kinship and compassionate love and care for others, whether they're related to us or not, whether they're near to us or not. And it's not just you and I. There's many people who have done this, and you've probably met many of them yourself. And that this is, I mean, I know some people don't in the US don't necessarily like referring back to religion, but you know, in Christianity, the whole story of Jesus is about loving everyone and sharing with everyone and giving to everyone, and you know, just brotherliness or siblingness, or you know, the care that you would have for a family member, and extending that circle of compassion to more and more and more until it's not a circle, it's just for everyone now.
Really?
And I mean, that's the sense I'm getting from you, that you feel that way. You care for everybody in a way that you don't want to see anyone die because of a lack of food. You don't want to see anyone forced into slavery to fish or be a housekeeper as a child. So, I mean, I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And
yeah,
when people...
and you know, the interesting thing is I have colleagues and friends saying, wow, you know, I really admire and respect you, but how do you keep going?
How do you not?
Yes, this is, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you know, it can be soul defeating, you know, it can be draining. It surely can. It's tough. But I feel like, you know, right now, yeah, I mean, I want to be there. I'm the type of person I've got to be, you know, others say, God, you put yourself for your life on the line. Can't you do it from a distance? And maybe at some point I will have to. Maybe I won't be physically able, healthy enough. I'll still keep the foundation, and I can do it from a different perspective, different slant. But I'm the kind of person that I have to be on the front line, on the ground, because that's the only way I feel at the present time. And certainly that's the way for the past 6 years that I can do the most good, you know. Yeah.
I looked at that as well, and I looked at that.
Seeing the children, speaking with the children, you know, holding the children, hugging the children, you know, mentoring the children, teaching the children, you know, even teaching martial arts to the children, music to the children, whatever it might be. Sure, that is what connects them. Yeah, that is the connection. That then when you see the smiles and the spark and the emotion, the passion. Yeah, you can't help but want to do this all the time. Yeah.
If people view this and they hope to reach out to you and help you out in your work, how can they do that?
Just go to wecansavechildren.org.
Can I bring that up for a moment?
You can, sir.
wecansavechildren.org without any spaces or anything.
Correct.
Okay, let me bring this up. wecansavechildren.org. And is this only you, or is this you plus others?
This is me.
Okay.
There are pictures of the members like that, what you just brought up. There's children from one of the orphanages, and you know,
this is you just here. Yes.
It's me. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, and to contact you, just on the contact right here.
Yeah, surely.
Okay, great. And are you accepting donations of like money directly then?
Always, just you go directly to that, to We Can Save Children. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and especially since, you know, we don't really know each other or anything. We just, you know,
But now we do.
I contacted you out of the blue, and
I know, right? But you know what? That happens a lot. It really does, it happens more and more. You know, I mean, I get connections from a lot of people. I mean, today I was on an international conference actually headed by His Excellency, Her Excellency, the former Deputy Prime Minister of Nepal. So there's a lot of academics, lawyers, but the topic was the effects of journalism and the effects on journalists through this COVID-19. So it was an interesting topic here. So, but I was really quite, because there were people from Pakistan, from India, from all over the place on this international Zoom. I was actually quite surprised. Many of them spoke about me. I've never met them, you know, obviously speaking with them and about my work I'm doing. So that made me feel good, you know, that people do know about it and are talking about it. So yeah, so it's a nice feeling to say that, okay, I do the work for the children. I don't do it for anybody else. But if people recognize it, then wonderful. That's great. Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
Just one reminder for you: if you can send me a nice photo so I can put it on the
Surely.
the screen, and then a bio, maybe 2,000 to 3,000 words. And I'll trim it down as necessary, or as short as you like, but you know, just something.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, you could do that, or you know what you could do is go. Oh, actually, no. I had my web designer. I wasn't going to do it, but I had him put up a bio on that particular on the We Can Save Children website, and it was actually.
Okay. I'm just gonna trim the first paragraph because it's very long.
Yeah, no, it was actually an interview I did for the magazine Psychology Today. So the Dr. Neil Farber did the interview, retired child surgeon and so forth. So yeah, any information you can cut and paste, but I would take it from that, but I'll send you a photo right here on inbox. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. And for all the viewers, if you appreciate that Vincent spent so much time discussing this stuff, if you learned anything at all, if you think it might be helpful for anybody else, then please, you know, not only go to his site, but, you know, hit a thumbs up that you appreciated this, you know, like and subscribe and put your email in so you get notifications, and put in a comment and say, you know, like, thank you, Vincent, or, you know, thank you for your work, or, you know, whatever you like. If you have additional information or resources, I noticed somebody put in a mention of Blood, a film, which I'm not familiar with. I'm familiar with the Blood Diamond one, but that's been a while ago. So anything like that. And then thank you all for joining us. And Vince and I look forward to our next talk.
Good. And maybe by next time, I shot a new PSA, public service announcement, and it had to do with the crisis in Syria, because obviously I was there the most recent as of November. So the director, it's like 6 minutes long. I've done a number of them. You can go on, they're on YouTube. But this is a new one. And in fact, finally, this COVID really has, you know, it put a hiatus on it, but it'll be done in a couple of weeks. So it'll be up. So maybe after that and it's up, we can talk again. Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. Great.
Thank you again, Vincent. Take care.
Stay safe and healthy. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.